With the 2 new episodes of Hazbin Hotel this week, we got to see Vox start to really put his plan in motion to take over hell as well as heaven. But along the way, we got some game-changing confirmations about the story of Lilith and her own uprising, so let's break it all down. Now, for the first 4 episodes of this season, we got to see Vox start his manipulation of the masses to slowly turn them against Charlie's Hazbin Hotel. But in episodes 5 and 6, Vox actually managed to get enough of the population on his side that most of the people at the hotel ended up leaving, and Heaven accepts it as a declaration of war from the sinners. At this point, Vox was already seen as a bit of a de facto leader for the public of hell, as Vox controls all of television and had already done a decades-long campaign to make people trust him not just as a businessman, but as someone representing them with his late-night talk shows. But in this episode, we saw Vox start a public rally, where he was able to position himself as a sort of democratic replacement for Lucifer that the people of hell should rally behind, someone claiming to serve the people instead of just ruling them as a king. Lucky for Vox, Sarah, Emily, Abel, and even Luke came down after Lucifer made his own appearance, and he was able to antagonize them and twist their words until Sarah herself transformed and let out this awesome full angel fighting mode, similar to how we see sinners transform when they fight, or even hellhounds like Luna in Hell of a Boss. All of this made Vox convince the people that they need to rally against Heaven, something they know can be effective now with the angels' weapons working against their own people. What's fascinating about the episode, however, is how Vox tries to piggyback off of Lilith's own movement to get this new one started. Back in episode 1 of season 1, Charlie explained that in hell, Lilith rose to fame as a singer and inspired the sinners in a way that made Heaven and the angels nervous. Now, for a long time, I had actually assumed that the extermination had been going on for hundreds or even thousands of years. But this season, it's been very explicitly explained that Lilith's push for all of this happened over just 7 years ago. This makes sense with the greater history of the world, as it's only recently that our population on Earth has really exploded to the massive size of the billions that it has. And more people living in one generation also means more people dying in one generation, and hell suddenly becoming a lot more overpopulated than it had in the previous thousands of years. With that in mind and Lilith's uprising, it makes sense that only about 7 years ago these annual exterminations would begin taking place. Though realistically, Lilith would have to be singing and working towards this uprising for at least a few years. And me personally, I believe that her career as a singer trying to get hell into an uprising has been going on for decades, at least since the time that Alistair started controlling the radio, which I imagine to be when Lilith's music would finally be heard by everyone in hell instead of just people at her performances. This still makes for a wildly different timeline than previously thought, and calls into question some of the other story elements in the show, particularly with the character Vox and explaining the timeline to Carmilla. Carmilla is the overlord of angelic weaponry, but apparently there have only been angelic weapons for a little over 7 years. This actually makes sense with what Moxie says in episode 5 of Hell of a Boss, as the way he describes angelic weaponry changing the way war is being waged in hell makes it sound like an extremely new system. It also explains why Vox, after so many years of basically controlling the Pride Ring as one of the top businessmen there, is only just now starting to get the idea of turning against Heaven, and of course, just a year ago in season 1, getting the idea that he needs to exploit the situation in order to profit by creating home defense systems against the angels. But it seems to be pretty easy to buy all of these angelic weapons in bulk, even for someone like Serpentius. This implies a lot of angelic weapons are left behind each year, despite only a few thousand sinners dying with each extermination from what they say in the show. But Carmilla, as far as I understood her character, is supposed to be one of the oldest overlords in the system, being paired with one of the absolute oldest known as Zestial. Velvet's whole thing back in season 1 is she hates how long these overlords have been in power, but Carmilla's success with weapons seems like it's only been around for as long as social media in hell, if not even less time, as social media probably existed in hell for more than 7 years now.